My beloved soul, listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal is not something ordinary. It is not something random, and it is definitely not something you were meant to ignore. Because right now, even if your mind is filled with doubt, even if your heart has been shaken by everything people have said, there is a truth quietly unfolding behind the scenes. A truth that no one around you has been able to see, a truth that even you tried to deny at times, yet it never left you. And that truth is this: you will end up with him, not by accident, not by chance, but because something deeper than logic, deeper than timing, and stronger than opinions has already chosen this connection. I know there were voices, so many voices, people who looked at your situation and shook their heads, people who told you it was too complicated, too broken, too far gone. They said it was impossible. They said you were holding on to something that would never come back. They said you needed to move on, forget, and close this chapter. And for a moment, maybe you believed them. Maybe you tried to walk away. Maybe you even convinced yourself that they were right. But then something inside you refused to agree. Something quiet but powerful kept pulling you back, not to the pain, not to the confusion, but to him. And you didn't understand why. You questioned yourself. You wondered if it was just attachment, just habit, just emotion. But deep down, it never felt like that. It felt different. It felt like something unfinished, something still alive, something that hadn't reached its final moment yet. And while everyone else was judging the situation from what they could see on the surface, they had no idea what was happening underneath. They couldn't feel the silent shifts, the emotional changes, the invisible connection that never truly broke. Because what they called impossible was actually just incomplete. What they thought was over was actually still in progress. And right now, as you are listening to this, something is changing inside him, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. He is beginning to see things differently. Not because someone told him to, not because of pressure, but because his own heart is finally becoming honest. You see, there was a time when he ran, when he avoided, when he convinced himself that distancing from you was the easier path, the safer choice, the way to escape feelings he didn't fully understand. But running didn't erase you. Distance didn't remove you. Silence didn't replace you. Instead, it did something unexpected. It made your absence louder. It made your presence stronger in his thoughts. It made him realize that no matter how far he went, he was still emotionally tied to you in a way he couldn't explain. And this realization didn't hit him all at once. It came in moments, small moments, quiet moments. Moments where he found himself thinking about you without trying, remembering things without wanting to, feeling something he couldn't ignore anymore. And that is where everything begins to shift. Because when someone reaches that point, when they stop running and start feeling, when they stop denying and start accepting, when they stop distracting themselves and start facing the truth, everything changes. And right now, that is exactly where he is heading. Abi, no, it may not look like it yet. I know on the outside it may still seem quiet, still seem uncertain, still seem like nothing is happening. But what you don't see is the internal transformation, the emotional awakening, the breaking of walls that once kept him distant. He is slowly letting go of the fears that made him step back. He is starting to question the choices he made. He is realizing that what he tried to replace you with never truly fulfilled him. And this realization is not comfortable for him. It's not easy. It's not something he can just ignore. It's something that stays with him. Something that keeps returning. Something that keeps pointing him back to you. And this is why, no matter how impossible it looked, no matter how many people doubted it, no matter how many times the situation seemed to fall apart, the connection never truly ended. Because what is meant at a deeper level cannot be destroyed by surface circumstances. It can be delayed, it can be misunderstood, it can be tested, but it cannot be erased. And right now, everything you went through, every moment of confusion, every tear, every question, every time you wondered if it was really over, It is all leading to a moment of clarity, a moment where things begin to make sense in a way they never did before. Because soon you will see the difference. You will feel the shift. You will notice the change in him, the way he speaks, the way he approaches you, the way he no longer hides what he feels. And when that moment comes, you will realize is something powerful, that what everyone called impossible was actually just misunderstood timing, that what looked broken was actually being rebuilt in silence, that what felt like an ending was actually a pause before a stronger beginning. And I need you to understand this clearly. Your patience was not wasted. Your feelings were not one-sided. Your connection was not an illusion. It was real, it is real, and it is still unfolding. Even now, as you sit here, wondering what will happen next, questioning if things will ever come together, the answer is already forming, the path is already aligning, the outcome is already moving toward you. Because this is not just about two people coming back together. This is about two souls who were never truly separated, only guided through a process that would make their connection stronger, deeper, and more real than before. And yes, there were moments where it felt like you lost him. Moments where it felt like everything was slipping away. Moments where you almost gave up completely. But those moments were not the end. They were part of the transformation, part of the journey that both of you needed to go through. Because sometimes, in order for something to truly work, both people have to grow separately before they can come back together in the right way. And that is exactly what has been happening. While you were learning, healing, becoming stronger, he was also changing, also evolving, also being guided toward the same realization. Even if it didn't look like it, even if it didn't feel like it, even if there were times when it seemed like he was moving further away, he was actually being brought closer in a way that only time could reveal. And now, that time is approaching. The moment where everything begins to come together, where confusion turns into clarity, where silence turns into communication, where distance turns into closeness. And when that moment arrives, you won't have to force anything. You won't have to chase, you won't have to convince. It will happen naturally. It will unfold smoothly. It will feel right in a way that removes all doubt. And you will finally understand why it had to happen this way. Why it couldn't be rushed, why it couldn't be forced, why it had to go through every stage it did. Because the connection you share is not something ordinary. It is not something that can be easily replaced or forgotten. It is something that was always meant to find its way back, no matter how complicated the journey became. So let go of the fear that it won't happen. Let go of the voices that told you it was impossible. Let go of the doubts that tried to convince you otherwise. Because what is coming is not based on opinions. It is not based on what others think. It is not based on what things looked like in the past. It is based on something much deeper, something much stronger, something that has been guiding both of you toward the same destination all along. And that destination is not separation. It is not distance. It is not forgetting. It is reunion. It is connection. It is finally coming together in a way that makes everything you went through make sense. And when it happens, when you look back at everything, you will realize that it was never impossible. It only seemed that way because you couldn't see what was being prepared behind the scenes. But now you are beginning to understand. Now you are beginning to feel it. Now you are beginning to see that no matter what anyone said, no matter how things looked, no matter how long it took, you will end up with him. Exactly as it was always meant, Tobe. And even now, as you sit in this quiet space between what was and what is about Tobe, there is something shifting in the unseen. Something aligning in a way you cannot control, but can definitely feel. Because the truth is, this story never ended where everyone thought it did. It only paused at a point where both of you needed to face yourselves. Where illusions had to fall apart, where expectations had to break, and where the version of love you once knew had to be completely redefined. And this is the part no one talks about. This is the part people misunderstand. They see distance and assume it's over. They see silence and think it's done. They see complications and label it impossible. But what they don't see is the transformation happening underneath, the emotional layers being peeled away, sterilization slowly forming in him that no matter how far he goes, no matter who he talks to, no matter how much he tries to distract himself, nothing replaces the feeling he had with you. And this realization doesn't come with noise. It doesn't come with announcements. It comes quietly. It settles deeply. It grows stronger with time until it reaches a point where it can no longer be ignored. And that is where he is now, standing at the edge of his own truth, no longer able to pretend, no longer able to deny what he feels, no longer able to keep you as just a memory. Because you were never just a memory. You were always something more, something that stayed, something that rooted itself inside him in a way that cannot be removed. And now, he is beginning to understand that, slowly but surely, he is starting to connect the dots. He is starting to see why nothing else worked, why everything else felt temporary, why every other connection lacked the depth that he once felt with you. And this awareness is not easy for him. It brings emotions he tried to avoid. It brings regret for the times he didn't choose you. It brings clarity about the mistakes he made, but more than anything, it brings him back to you. Not physically yet, not fully yet, but emotionally, energetically. Internally, he is already moving closer, and I need you to hear this clearly, because this is where your faith is tested the most. Just because you don't see movement on the outside does not mean nothing is happening. Just because he hasn't reached out yet does not mean he isn't thinking about you. Just because the situation still looks uncertain does not mean the outcome has changed. Because the outcome was never based on what it looked like. It was always based on what it truly is. And what it truly is a connection that continues to pull both of you back toward each other, no matter how many times life tried to separate you. And you have felt this. You have felt those moments where out of nowhere you think of him, where something reminds you of him, where your heart reacts without logic. That is not random, that is not coincidence. That is connection. The same way he feels it too, even if he doesn't show it, even if he doesn't say it, even if he tries to hide it. It is there, it has always been there, and now it is becoming stronger because the resistance is fading. The walls he built are weakening. The excuses he held onto are losing their power. The fear that once controlled his decisions is slowly dissolving. And in its place, something new is rising, something real, something honest. The desire to come back, the courage to face you again. The understanding that what he walked away from was not something he could ever truly leave behind. And when that realization fully settles, when it becomes impossible for him to ignore, he will move, not out of impulse, not out of confusion, but out of certainty. A certainty that he didn't have before, a clarity that only comes after losing something and realizing its true value. And when he reaches that point, his actions will speak differently, his presence will feel different, his energy toward you will no longer be hesitant or unclear. It will be direct, it will be intentional, it will be real. And you will feel it, not just in what he says, but in how he shows up, in how he chooses you without hesitation, without doubt, without running. And that is when everything changes. Not just for him, but for you too, because all the questions you carried, all the doubts that kept circling your mind, all the moments where you wondered if you were holding on to something that would never return, they will all fade in the presence of what is finally happening. And you will realize that your heart was never wrong, that what you felt all along was not something you imagined, not something you created out of hope, but something real that was simply unfolding in its own time. And yes, there will be a moment, a very specific moment where it all becomes clear. It might come in the form of a message, a conversation, an unexpected return, or it might come quietly, in a way you didn't expect, but you will recognize it instantly. because it will feel different from everything before. It will feel aligned. It will feel peaceful instead of confusing. It will feel certain instead of temporary. And in that moment, you won't have to question anything anymore, because everything will make sense. Every delay, every separation, every misunderstanding, every obstacle, all of it will reveal its purpose. All of it will show you why it had to happen the way it did. Because if it didn't, neither of you would have become the version of yourselves that is now ready for this connection to truly work. And that is the truth most people don't understand. They think love is just about being together. But real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that transforms, the kind that cannot be replaced, it requires growth, it requires lessons, it requires moments of separation that teach both people what they truly feel. And that is exactly what happened here. This was not a loss, it was a preparation. This was not an ending, it was a transformation. And now, everything is leading back to where it was always meant to go, back to each other. So do not let fear convince you that it's over. Do not let time make you think it won't happen. Do not let other people's opinions define your story, because your story was never meant to follow their understanding. It was always meant to unfold in its own way, in its own time. And right now, you are closer than you think, closer to the moment where everything shifts, closer to the moment where what felt impossible becomes undeniable. And when it happens, when you finally stand in that reality, you will look back at everything and realize something that will change how you see it all. That it was never about proving anyone wrong. It was about trusting something deeper than what anyone else could see. And that trust, that quiet knowing you held on to even when things didn't make sense, that is what brought you here. That is what kept this connection alive. And that is what will lead you exactly where you were always meant to be. With him, not as a possibility, not as a hope, but as a reality that no one can deny anymore. And now stay with me a little longer, because this is the part where everything begins to feel different in a way you have never experienced before. This is the part where the unseen becomes visible, where the silence begins to speak, where what was once hidden starts revealing itself in ways that feel almost unreal. Because there is a moment approaching, a very specific shift in time where his energy, his thoughts and his actions will begin to align in a way that directly moves toward you. And you won't have to search for signs. You won't have to question meanings. You won't have to decode anything anymore, because it will be clear, it will be undeniable, it will be something that reaches you, not just through words but through feeling. And before that moment arrives, something important is happening inside him right now, something that is reshaping the way he sees everything. He is revisiting memories, not casually, not lightly, but deeply, intensely. As if something inside him is forcing him to look again at what he once walked away from. And this time, he is not looking with confusion. He is not looking with fear. He is looking with awareness. He is seeing the moments he didn't appreciate enough, the times he misunderstood you, the way she let his own doubts and insecurities create distance. And this realization is not gentle. It is powerful, it is emotional, it is something that shakes him in a way he cannot ignore. Because when someone truly sees what they lost, when they fully understand the depth of a connection they once had, it changes them. It breaks the illusion that they can just move on easily. It dissolves the idea that something better will simply appear, and it brings them face with the truth. That what they had with you was not ordinary. It was not replaceable. It was not something that could be forgotten, and this truth is settling inside him now, slowly but strongly, like something taking root, something growing into a realization that cannot be undone. And as this happens, his resistance continues to fall away. The excuses he once used no longer feel valid. The reasons he gave himself to stay away no longer make sense. And this creates a kind of inner conflict, a moment where he has to choose between staying in the comfort of distance or stepping into the courage of returning. And this choice is noticey. It requires him to face everything he avoided, to acknowledge everything he tried to ignore, to step beyond the fear that once controlled him. But here is what you need to understand. He is no longer the same person who walked away. He has changed, he has grown. He has been shaped by the very distance he created, and that growth is what is now guiding him back. Because growth always leads to truth, and his truth has always been connected to you. And while all of this is happening within him, something equally important is happening within you. Even if you don't fully realize it, even if you haven't put into words, you have changed too. You are not the same person who once waited in confusion, who once questioned your worth, who once felt lost in the uncertainty of this connection. You have become stronger, more aware, more grounded in yourself, have learned to stand in your own energy, to find peace within your own space, to grow beyond the version of yourself that depended on external validation. And this transformation within you is not separate from what is happening with him. It is connected. Because for this reunion to happen in the way it is meant to, both of you had to evolve. Both of you had to reach a place where you could meet each other, not from a place of lack, but from a place of completeness. And that is exactly what is happening now. Two separate journeys, two individual transformations, slowly aligning toward the same point. And that point is where everything comes together. And when that moment arrives, it will not feel rushed, it will not feel forced. It will not feel like something uncertain. It will feel natural, it will feel right, it will feel like something that was always meant to happen. Because it was. And I know there is still a part of you that wonders. A part of you that questions if this is really true, if this is really possible, if after everything that has happened, after all the distance, all the silence, all the doubt, if it can really come back together. And the answer is yes, not because things are going back to how they were before, but because they are becoming something new, something stronger, something more real. This is not about repeating the past. This is about creating a future that is built on everything you both have learned. And that future is already being prepared, already being aligned, already moving closer with each passing moment. And soon you will begin to see evidence of this. It might start small, a sign, a message, a shift in communication, something that feels like the beginning of a change. And then it will grow, it will develop, it will turn into something more consistent, more clear, more intentional. Until one day, you realize that what once felt impossible is now happening right in front of you, and in that moment, everything inside you will become still, not in confusion, but in understanding, because you will finally see that every step of this journey, every high, every low, every moment of doubt and every moment of hope, all of it was leading here. All of it was part of something bigger than you could see at the time. And you will no longer question why it took so long. You will no longer wonder why it had to be so difficult, because you will understand that without those experiences, without that time, without that growth, this connection would not have reached the depth it now holds. And that depth is what makes it unbreakable. That depth is what makes it real. And that depth is what ensures that when you come together, it will not be temporary, it will not be uncertain, it will not be something fragile, it will be something solid, something grounded, something that can withstand anything. And that is why you had to go through everything you did. Not to lose each other, but to find each other again in a way that is stronger than before. And now, as you stand on the edge of this new beginning, as you feel the shift getting closer, as you sense that something is about to change, I want you to hold on to one thing. Trust. Trust what you have felt all along. Trust the connection that never left you. Trust the quiet knowing that stayed with you even when everything around you said otherwise. Because that knowing was never wrong. It was guiding you. It was preparing you. It was leading you to this exact moment. And now, that moment is here. Unfolding, aligning, moving toward you in a way that cannot be stopped. because what is meant to be will always find its way, no matter how many obstacles appear, no matter how many times it seems delayed, no matter how many people say it cannot happen, it will happen. And when it does, when you finally stand face to face with the reality of what you once thought you lost, you will understand something that changes everything, that it was never impossible. It was only waiting for the right time. And that time is now. And now this is where everything reaches its final turning point. The moment where all the waiting, all the wondering, all the silent questions inside your heart begin to dissolve into something clear, something steady, something that no longer shakes you the way it once did. Because what is about to unfold is not just our turn. It is not just a message. It is not just a simple reunion. It is the completion of something that has been building for far longer than you realize. And right now, at this exact phase, he is no longer just thinking about you. He is no longer just remembering. He is no longer just feeling quietly. He is reaching a decision, a deep internal decision that is forming from everything he has gone through without you. Because there comes a point in every journey like this, where the heart stops hesitating, where the mind stops creating excuses, where the soul becomes louder than fear, and he is standing at that point now. You may not see it yet, you may not hear it yet, but he is feeling it. A pull that is stronger than his doubts, a truth that is louder than his past choices, a realization that is impossible to ignore anymore. And that realization is you. Not just the memory of you, not just the idea of you, but you as the person he cannot replace, the connection he cannot recreate anywhere else, the feeling he cannot escape no matter how much time passes. And this realization is not soft, it is not gentle, it is intense. It is overwhelming in a way that forces him to finally confront what he has been avoiding. And as he sits with this, as he processes everything, something inside him breaks open, not in pain, but in clarity. Because he finally understands that what he walked away from was not something temporary, it was not something ordinary, it was something real, something rare, something that does not come twice. And once that understanding fully settles, there is no going back to how things were before. There is no returning to distance. There is no hiding behind silence. There is no pretending that you don't matter. Because now you matter more than ever. And this is where his actions begin to change. Slowly at first, almost unnoticeable, like a shift in energy, like a difference in the way he thinks about reaching out, like a hesitation turning into courage, and then it grows. That courage becomes stronger, that thought becomes clearer, that desire to come back becomes something he can no longer hold back. And when he finally moves, when he finally decides to close the distance, it will not be random, it will not be careless, it will be intentional, it will be real, it will come from a place inside him that has been completely transformed by this journey. And when that moment happens, when you see his name, when you hear his voice, when you feel his presence returning into your life, everything inside you will pause for a second, not out of shock, but out of recognition, because your soul already knew this was coming. Your heart already felt this before it happened. Your intuition already whispered this truth to you when nothing else made sense. And in that moment, you won't feel confusion. You won't feel doubt. You won't feel the need to question anything. You will feel calm. You will feel clarity. You will feel something settle inside you in a way that tells you this is real. This is finally happening. And as the connection begins to rebuild, as conversations begin to flow again, as emotions begin to surface in a more honest way, you will notice something different about him. He is not the same person who once left. He is not the same person who once hesitated. He is not the same person who once allowed fear to control his choices. He is more aware, more open, more certain of what he feels and what he wants. And that certainty is what changed everything. Because now, he is not just coming back to see what happens. He is coming back because he knows that this is where he belongs. He knows that this connection is something he cannot lose again. He knows that you are not someone he can walk away from anymore, and that knowing will reflect in everything he does, in the way he speaks to you, in the way he shows up, in the way he chooses you again, not out of impulse, but out of understanding. And this is where your journey reaches its most powerful moment. Because everything you went through, every tear you held back, every night you questioned if it would ever happen, every time you tried to convince yourself to let go but couldn't, all of it leads to this moment where what once felt impossible becomes your reality. And you will look back at everything, not with pain, but with understanding. You will see why the delays were necessary, why the distance had to happen, why things could not come together sooner. Because if they did, it would not have lasted, it would not have been ready, it would not have been as strong as it is now. And now, as everything aligns, as both of you meet again in this new version of yourselves, you will realize that this was never about losing each other. It was about finding your way back in the right way. And that is what makes this connection different. That is what makes it powerful. That is what makes it something that cannot be easily broken again. Because now it is built on truth, on growth, on understanding, not on confusion, not on fear, not on uncertainty. And this is why, no matter how many people said it was impossible, no matter how many times it looked like it wouldn't happen, no matter how many moments made you doubt everything, it still found its way. It still returned. It still became real. And that is the final truth you need to hold on to. That what is truly meant for you will never be destroyed by time, will never be erased by distance, will never be ended by other people's opinions. It may be tested, it may be delayed, it may be challenged in ways that make you question everything. But if it is real, if it is deep, if it is written at a level beyond what you can see, it will come back, it will find you again, it will complete itself. And now, as you stand at the end of this journey, as you feel everything finally coming together, as you see the reality of what you once only hoped for, there is only one thing left to understand. It was never impossible. It was only waiting for both of you to become ready for what was always meant to be. And now, finally, without doubt, without fear, without anything standing in the way, you will end up with him, exactly as it was always written, exactly as it was always meant to happen. And this time, not as a question, but as a truth that will stay forever.